America, Blaze God Blaster here, and welcome back to another episode of Flashback Friday, where I reflect, reassess, and cringe at my older projects. For this Flashback Friday, I decided, what better way to see if I've improved on my filming skills and writing skills than looking back at my older projects and seeing them from then to now. And I'm just focusing on Blaze films, so we're not doing Go Girl, Batgirl, or the Blaze movie. Ugh. Honestly, I might delete that, but probably not. It's part of history, so keep it in. So, without much further ado, I'm pretty sure you'll catch on as we start. Let's start off with the first film that I made when I came back, Prince Jack. Prince Jack is honestly not bad for a first film, or as far as coming back to filming goes. It has a nice idea with it being all stop motion, and the plot seems to make sense. The villain isn't too bad, and it also seems to have an actually kind of interesting story. Now, with any film, there's no perfect film without flaws. Unless you're talking about Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. They nailed it down almost perfectly. One thing is a bad plot twist. Now, for those who don't know, at the end of the film, it's revealed that the main bad guy, King Kubla, turns out to be this lost prince, who was mentioned one time at the beginning of the film. It's only said one time, and then I just randomly drop it back in at the last minute for a final battle. I feel like I only did that mainly because I wasn't extremely proud of the initial final battle, because it was just Prince Jack taking down his army, and not the king himself. But honestly, I feel like that was done better, because the whole idea is that it's supposed to have the idea that King Kubla is actually a coward, and is unwilling to fight. So it would have made sense if I just had the final battle be against his army. But no, I just randomly decided he goes after a prince. It does not make sense with the whole narrative of the character. And also, it's not even, really makes that sense. Because you probably forget what happens at the beginning of the story. So, why? Aside from, one point where, King Kubla's lackeys notices that there might be something wrong with his blood or DNA, there's really nothing given an idea that there might be something amiss of him. And aside from that, there's a few weird logic points, like how did everyone know that Prince Jack was coming back home, and etc. But other than that, the film was actually not that bad, and it's one that I kind of feel a bit proud of. I rate it a 7.5 out of 10. Now, these next two films I'm putting together because they kind of have the exact same problem, and that being The May Day Massacre and The Invader. These two films, they sound good on paper, but one thing to note is that when you actually hear what the story sounds like, it feels more like a concept than a fully fleshed story. You see, a concept is supposed to be kind of like a very one-dimensional and not an incredibly complex idea, but it's something to go off of while making the entire story. And then you start building off that idea into making it a full-on, fully fleshed story. This feels more like a concept than a story. Don't believe me? Well, think of this. Out of these three descriptions of films I made, two of them being the ones we're talking about right now, which out of these three actually sounds like a story than a concept? Is it Mayday Massacre? A collage of films of people dying because of a Grim Reaper who wants to continue his economy? As said in just description, and you never know elsewhere. The Invader, a man's at home and a random person tries to invade his house and tries to kill him. Or C, for insomnia, a man is struggling to sleep, so he decides to take some pills. But, however, as better as he's getting, he starts noticing that there's suddenly a creature looming over his house and is torturing him in his sleep. If you said either Mayday Massacre or The Incident, you really are one-dimensional, probably. Or not, and you just purposely picked a stupid answer. Either way, the answer was C. Or at least in my personal opinion. But the answer should have been C. So, aside from that, like, in Mayday Massacre, it just feels like there's a few stuff that in it that doesn't really make sense for the film. For example, there's like this random shot of a group of dead kids with a bunny suit, which pretty much was ripped straight from FNAF. And then there's like, for some reason, like a random like shot of a girl with her eyes rolling in the back of her head, and then a sensor for no reason. It just feels more like an analog horror than a film. And it just, I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with the actual film. It's scary, but just because it's scary doesn't mean that it should be in the film. Then The Invader, it doesn't have the exact same problem, but it just kind of feels a little... Like, there's, like, one part where, like, he changes the radio for, like, no reason. So, I rate Mayday Massacre a 2 out of 10, and then The Invader a 4 out of 10. Just because I feel like The Invader is slightly better. Now, next, let's go to Remade. This one, I feel like I actually did put quite some effort, similar to Prince Jack, but I don't think I really can do animating all that much. One, it's extremely tedious, and if you don't know, I'm an incredibly impatient person, which does not help when you want to make films. And also, it's literally in like this ratio that seems like it came straight out of TikTok. And it's just annoying, like, trying to animate and then you constantly, you can't make a background, or you can't add any more frames unless you watch an ad. It's tedious, to say the least. But aside from personal pains, what about the actual story? I feel like this is one of the very few times I can say I did a decent job world building. It plays along with the idea on the people wondering what happens after death, and it builds that idea in its own world where all those possibilities could actually exist in the same universe. And also, aside from that, the story is actually pretty decent. The logic is kind of consistent, and the villain seems like actually a decent villain and not completely one-dimensional. And also, he doesn't have a plot twist that comes straight out of nowhere. So, you're probably wondering, oh, that's pretty decent. How did I screw it up? There's only one thing that I would say I really screwed up with it, and that's because you'll notice, like, very uncomfortably, right in the middle of it, there's a very easily noticeable shift in pace. Usually in a film, when it changes pace, it kind of is smooth and gradually. It's incredibly instant. Like, out of nowhere, we immediately go from a character dying, a main character nonetheless, to immediately Russell coming back to having like, let's end this once and for all. he doesn't even have, like, time to grieve. And also, I just randomly added that Sydney died for, like, no reason. And then she never appears. But aside from, like, pacing issues that are extremely noticeable, it's not that bad. I rate it an 8 out of 10. Lastly, for part 1, let's take a look at Furry Hollow. This film, I feel like I actually did a pretty good job with. The plot is nice, the pacing is pretty consistent, and the logic makes sense, and world building is not too bad. I made sure to give the main characters a consistent personality, and it sticks for the entire movie. And I don't really have any flaws that I can find. With the only one, like, even slightly, it's just that how out of nowhere near the end, the main characters just decide to eat the crocodile for, like, no reason. Like, it's said that's for desperation for food, but honestly, that's the only problem. I rate this a 9 out of 10. Wow. That's impressive. Only, like, 2 noticeably bad ratings, and then we just got 3 pretty decent ones. Huh. Maybe I'm not as bad of a filmer as I thought. Oh, wait, I almost forgot. We're just about to get into the movie Croaked. You know how much I hate that movie. But we're going to deep dive into that on part 2. This video is probably getting pretty long. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye!